Good evening and welcome to TV Tuần-san News of the Week. My name is Emma Doe. And what's making headlines this week? Vietnamese farmers take 38 police hostage. An appeals court in Vietnam upholds the death sentence for a Vietnamese-born Australian national. And a new character played by a Vietnamese-American actor will be the latest addition to the Star Wars franchise. In this week's top story, the Mayor of Hanoi has been called to end a land dispute between farmers and authorities, which resulted in 38 police and local officials being held hostage. The standoff began last Saturday when police clashed with Dong Thăm farmers. Farmers say the government is seizing their 116 acres of farmland without compensating them. It's believed the land will be used for the state-owned mobile network operator Viettel. On Saturday, police arrested 4 farmers for allegedly causing social unrest. Farmers later hit back by detaining 38 police officers and threatening to kill them. 15 police officers have since been freed by villagers, while 3 other detainees escaped by themselves. 20 people are still being held. Media coverage of the event has been mixed, with state-owned media largely publishing statements from the government's propaganda unit, which claims that farmers illegally occupied the land that had been previously reserved by the military. Only the state-owned news site VN Express quotes farmers saying they wanted the dispute settled in accordance with the law. Land conflicts are common in Vietnam, where the government ultimately own all the land. Small landowners have often become angered at what they say is too little in compensation when their land is taken and sold to lucrative real estate projects. An appeals court in Ho Chi Minh City has upheld the death sentence of a Vietnamese-born Australian national for trafficking heroin. Phạm Trung Dũng was arrested in 2013 at Tuần-san International Airport after customs officials found 3.6 kilograms of heroin in his luggage. At his 2014 trial, Dũng told the court he had been hired by an unidentified man to traffic the heroin in exchange for $40,000. The 38-year-old, who'd been living in Australia with his partner and their 2 sons since 2000, said the lure of the money was irresistible. At his second hearing in mid-2016, Dũng was found guilty by the Ho Chi Minh City People's Court and handed a death sentence. Vietnam has some of the world's toughest drug laws. Those convicted of possessing or smuggling more than 600 grams of heroin or more than 2.6 kilograms of methamphetamine-type stimulants face the death penalty. Vietnam and China have agreed to work on strengthening the focal points of their strategic partnership. The agreement came on Monday at the 10th meeting of the country's Committee for Bilateral Cooperation held in Beijing. In the past year, both countries saw positive development trends and enhanced cooperation between ministries. The latest meeting saw the 2 sides vow to strengthen collaboration in transport, environmental protection, climate change, and cross-border labour flows. Vietnam's Prime Minister has ordered work to halt on a major steel plant, citing environmental concerns and aiming to prevent another chemical spill. Vietnam-based Hoa Sen Group last year announced plans to build the $10.6 billion complex, which could produce 16 million tonnes of steel a year. But according to local media reports, a government statement issued on Monday called for further studies on the potential environmental impact of the project. Last year, a steel plant run by Taiwan's Formosa Plastics Group was the site of one of Vietnam's worst ever environmental disasters. An accidental toxic waste spill polluted more than 200 kilometres of coastline and killed more than 100 tonnes of fish. A large number of Hoa Hảo Buddhists in Vietnam's An Giang province protested against local authorities on Wednesday. According to Radio Free Asia, the Buddhists protested against harassment and beatings they received when they gathered to pray at the home of a former prisoner of conscience. The US-based broadcaster reported that police in the village followed the group of Hoa Hảo Buddhists on motorcycle. Radio Free Asia reports that police confiscated the group's motorbike registration papers and did not return them. The Hoa Hảo Buddhists in An Giang province are among those who do not follow the official Hoa Hảo Church Committee, which is sanctioned by Hanoi's communist government. The government recognises the Hoa Hảo religion but imposes harsh controls on dissenting Hoa Hảo groups. The parents of a Vietnamese schoolgirl killed in Japan last month have returned to the country following news of the suspect's arrest. Japanese police arrested a 46-year-old man last Friday on suspicion of abandoning the body of 9-year-old Lê Thị Nhật Linh in Abiko City. According to state media, Yasumasa Shibuya headed a parents' association at the elementary school where Lin attended. It's also reported the real estate salesman led a neighbourhood initiative to watch over children walking to and from school. Lin's body was found in a grass field about 600 metres from her home in Chiba Prefecture on March 26, 2 days after she disappeared on her way to school. Chiba police say results revealed that the third grader was choked to death. The victim's family were living in Japan at the time of her murder and had returned to Vietnam with her body for the funeral. Over to news in Australia. Vietnamese students and migrants in Australia are being paid as little as $6 per hour in their hospitality jobs. That's according to a special investigation by SBS Vietnamese. The findings showed that many employers behind the exploitation were fellow Vietnamese migrants themselves. SBS Vietnamese Radio's investigative reporters posed as job seekers to ask business owners about wages across Melbourne's southeastern and western suburbs. Of the 20 restaurants spoken to, none offered over $10 an hour. SBS footage also shows many staff being asked to work for a daily wage between $100 to $130, with some working continuously at up to 12 hours at a time. The Australian minimum wage is $17.70. SBS learned that Vietnamese international students and migrants who come to work in exploitative businesses are often unaware of Australia's minimum wage. Others spoke to SBS about abusive employers, some of whom did not let workers take toilet breaks. The president of the Footscray Asian Business Association, Wing La, told SBS that competition between small businesses was so great that business owners could not afford to pay the minimum wage. Mr. Mecca Ho, a spokesperson of the Victoria Street Business Association in Richmond, said Vietnamese food is often priced at a cheaper rate than other cuisines, making it hard for businesses to survive. He also added that students accepted lower wages due to lower English proficiency and difficulty finding work in English-speaking businesses. The popular 40-year-old Star Wars franchise has revealed that a new female character in the 8th film, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, will be played by a Vietnamese-American. During the Star Wars celebration at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, director Rian Johnson said Kelly Marie Tran will play the character of Rose, a maintenance worker in the Resistance. Tran, whose biggest previous credit was a handful of appearances on American television series, will be joining the main heroes from The Force Awakens. Though not much else was made known about Tran's character during the panel, Johnson stated that her part will be the biggest new role in the film. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which is still in post-production, is scheduled for release in December. A Canadian wrestler born to Vietnamese refugee parents has been inducted into the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. The 36-year-old Carol Huynh has claimed 2 Olympic medals in her field, a gold medal from the 2008 Olympics and a bronze from 2012. She was the first Canadian to win Olympic gold in women's wrestling and was Canada's national champion 11 times. Huynh's mother and father fled Ho Chi Minh City in the late 1970s and settled in the Canadian city of New Hazelton. Huynh picked up an interest in wrestling in grade 8 after her biology teacher talked her into trying out the sport. She remains one of only 15 women inducted into the United World Wrestling Hall of Fame. A Vietnamese-American advertising school graduate has embarked on a guerrilla marketing campaign, tacking "Made by Refugee" stickers on products across New York City. 26-year-old Kien Kwan and his friend Jillian Young have been plastering their stickers across anything made by refugees, from sriracha to Bob Marley records and birth control pills. The pair told VN Express that if it wasn't for refugees, the world wouldn't be the same. They were incensed to start their project after President Donald Trump's executive order to ban citizens from 8 Muslim countries. Like the tags "Made in China" or "Made in the USA", Kwan and Young believe "Made by a Refugee" is just as worthy a title. That's all from TV Tuần-san News of the Week. For more stories, you can follow TV Tuần-san at tvtsonline.com.au and Facebook at TV Tuần-san. I'm Emma Doe, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great weekend.